Hi and welcome back to my channel. Before we go in today's video, click on the subscribe button, like and share your thoughts on the video in the comment section down below. With that said, let's go straight into having an insight of today's video. Have you ever wondered about anything that is or could be worse than slavery? Is there even something that could be worse than slavery? Not anything I've heard of can reach the levels of mistreatment of people who are and have been enslaved, but in this video, a journalist compares slavery to the military draft. Now, he's heard literally saying that the worst thing that he could think of is the draft because, according to him, the government can make you go and get unalived in a foreign battlefield. Now, this is because you don't own yourself in any conceivable way. That's according to him. Now, the two are totally different and cannot in any way be compared because with a draft, you have and enjoy certain rights, while with slavery, you don't have rights at all because you are owned. Check out this video as they have a one-on-one conversation where a sister schools the palm-colored man.
I'm surprised you have this. It sounds, I mean, the North did you could say that was fine. They needed to do that, and this was necessary to end the institution of slavery, which is horrible. The hundreds of thousands of deaths, the invasion and conquest of the South, the burning of city after city, a scorched earth policy of totally destroying the Confederate armed forces and capturing their leaders. That's fine. That's what we did. We can't examine. I mean, I think it's fine to wonder if that was the greatest course of action or the ideal way to bring about the end of slavery, particularly because the North invented the draft and the purpose of doing it, which is, in my view, also a form of slavery, that then persisted for another 100 years. Forcing people to go die in warfare is the most objectionable thing I could possibly think of.
Weird. I think 400 years of slavery having ritualized.
If the government can if they can make
you just kill their slaves and didn't kill slaves.
I'm saying this is a form of slavery. I'm not saying slavery is not slavery.
You just said that the draft is the worst thing that you could think of, and we're having a conversation about slavery.
You do not. If the government can make you go on a foreign battlefield, you don't own yourself in any conceivable way. So that's why I don't romanticize the North.
You have a right to get married if you're in a war. If you're drafted, you have a right to keep your own, to not have them literally sold away from you as property. You have a right to wages for your labor. You had a right to a GI Bill.
One kind of slavery is the right way to get.
Robbie, you can make your point without making a comparison between the draft and chattel slavery, which was a multi-generational pogrom against millions of Africans who were brought across the Atlantic and kept for hundreds of years without a single right in the land.
Very bad, shouldn't have done any of it, should not have enslaved people in the course of ending it.
Bombastic side-eye. Criminal offensive side-eye.
Now, after watching the main video, do you agree with the palm color man or not? Or maybe you feel a sister was right with what she was saying. Can the draft be dangerous or the worst thing anyone can experience? To be part of this conversation, which I know for sure will be lit because of the debate which is going to be there, simply share your comments as well down below and let's get talking. But before we do that, check out these teachers as different people express themselves on this issue.
I challenge anyone to find a video of Robbie Suave saying, kind of weird that you're happy the United States won World War II. Because, look, it's great we defeated the Nazis and all, but kind of messed up that we implemented the draft while doing so. That's the important issue. That's what we should really be discussing right now. And of course you won't find it because the immorality of the draft is magically his chief concern only when it comes to end slavery. Funny how that works. And yeah, the draft is unjust and it's immoral, but to say that it's worse than chattel slavery is literally insane. You're comparing apples to refrigerators at this point. He also said he can't imagine anything worse than being drafted to the military against your will, which I find hard to believe because with very little effort, I certainly can. For example, if you were drafted at birth, the day you were born, you were an official member of the United States military. And as soon as you could walk, they gave you a little uniform, assigned you to a squad, and had you performing tasks around the battalion. And if you disobeyed, they had every right to you with a whip. That sounds a little worse to me. Additionally, this conscription is for life. It doesn't matter if there's a war going on or not. Conflict or no conflict, you and every member of your family is forced to serve in the military until the day you die. By the way, I wouldn't recommend getting too attached to those family members because at any moment you could be transferred to a different brigade. This brigade might be in another city. It might be in another state, but in either case, you will never see your family again. And just for good measure, you're legally prohibited from learning how to read, so you can't even write them letters. But hey, more time to serve your country, huh? Oh, did I mention you're not getting paid for this lifetime of service in national defense? You're doing this all for free. I mean, sure, they'll give you food and clothes and a pile of straw to sleep on, but I'm sure you won't mind because, this entire experience is going to teach you valuable skills to use later in life. Look, not enough people understand just how virulently anti-black a lot of Americans are. Like, to the extent that they just dismiss it as some sort of mild inconvenience for those who experienced it, and they get annoyed that you bring it up at all. It's like, oh, well, why are you focusing on the past? That doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything today. Like, it's repugnant. And look, when people tell you who they are, believe them.
Whether it was a draft or people voluntarily told, some people take that idea of serving our country a little bit more seriously than you. So and as a black man, I'm offended that we're still having this goddamn conversation. Listen, we're not doing this in 2024. We're not. I'm already making up stems, the reverse roots, to help some of y'all feel better about your damn selves. But that's about as far as I'm giving it. That's it. That's the end. There's a concession. You will get your version of history written down in a book called Stems, The Reverse Roots. Okay? Other than that, if you dislike history so damn much, perhaps since you jump your behinds in a DeLorean to go back to try to fix it, maybe you can fix it to where your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy didn't want else. Enough. For far too long, especially since the ascension of that orange idiot, people have wanted to center themselves into victimhood so damn bad that now they're trying to change stuff that, everybody with books can read. Oh, I'm sorry. You're trying to change that too. Let me help y'all understand something. This country wasn't great because it started out by fighting native and indigenous people and having Africans. I don't want to hear about the Africans go. I don't care. Well, they are actually sold. I don't care who bought them. It'd be real funny if that African coexisted with all these Africans that was in there and nobody. Obviously, there must have been a demand, hence the supply. Shut up. I don't care where they sold or who sold them. I care about who bought them. CRT makes your skin itch. My suggestion, get yourself something for that. Some itching cream of some kind. I don't care. Calamine lotion really helps with itches. We're not doing this no more. We're not. You're not getting history a la carte to make yourself feel better.
Yeah. He said all of that on camera. Now you may ask yourself, why would anyone beclown themselves and make an argument that ridiculous? Well, it's a convenient way to minimize the horrors of slavery by saying that there was something equally bad that happened to people. It's when somebody wants so badly to be in the victim club that they literally invent a way to make slavery equal to something that happened to their ancestors. God help us.
Now, if we look at the conscription, in the United States, military conscription, commonly known as the draft, has been employed by the U.S. federal government in 6 conflicts: the American Revolutionary War, the American Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Now, the 4th incarnation of the draft came into being in 1940 through the Selective Training and Service Act. This was the country's first peacetime draft. From 1940 until 1973, during both peacetime and periods of conflict, men were drafted to fill vacancies in the U.S. Armed Forces that could not be filled through voluntary means. Now, active conscription in the United States ended in 1973 when the U.S. Armed Forces moved to an all-volunteer military. However, conscription remains in place on a contingency basis all male U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and male immigrants, whether documented or undocumented, residing within the United States who are 18 through 25 are required to register with the Selective Service System. United States federal law also continues to provide for the compulsory conscription of men between the ages of 17 and 44 who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become U.S. citizens, and additionally, certain women for military service pursuant to Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution and 10 U.S. Code 246. Now, this selective service system, otherwise known as the military draft or conscription, requires almost all male U.S. citizens and immigrants ages 18 through 25 to register with the government. You may have seen the question, have you registered for the selective service on applications for jobs, driver's license, student, and more? But could you actually get called up into the military? Now, here's everything you need to know about the draft. Just what is the draft and why must you register? The draft is officially known as the Selective Service. So the Selective Service is a government bureau separate from the Defense Department, whose mission statement is to register men and maintain a system that, when authorized by the President and Congress, rapidly provides personnel in a fair and equitable manner while managing an alternative service program for conscientious objectives. Basically, this means that if we have a national emergency or that all volunteer military can't adequately support, Congress and the President can reinstate the draft and force male citizens to serve in the military. While women have not been excluded from combat services since 2013, they currently are not required to register for the draft. The law as it's written now refers specifically to male persons in stating who must register and who would be drafted. For women to be required to register with the Selective Service, Congress would have to change the law. Legally, you could be in a lot of trouble if you don't register. It's a felony. However, no one has been prosecuted for the crime since 1986, but that doesn't mean you won't have problems. If you fail to register for the draft by the time you turn 26, you're no longer able to do so. Then if you apply for any government benefits at any time after that, you quite possibly will be denied. No student aid, government job, etc. Government statistics suggest that more than 1 million men have been denied some government benefits because they weren't registered for the draft. An appeal to get those benefits can be constantly and time consuming. In 2017, the Selective Service System turned over nearly 200,000 names and addresses of people who had failed to register for the draft to the Department of Justice for computer matching. Now, just like my fellow black sister said, with the draft you have the right to still enjoy some of the benefits, unlike slavery where people were just gotten minus their will or willingness, which makes families break because they leave their children behind. People are separated from their families. With the draft you have the right to get paid, unlike slavery where they just use you for your hard labor minus getting paid for your work. It is just a lot of things that we can just point at and say the draft can never be compared to slavery. Now, there's an article which I came across which first starts by defining what slavery and conscription are. So slavery is the state of one bound in servitude as the property of a slaveholder or household, while conscription is compulsory enrollment, especially for the armed forces draft. Now, according to this person says to them, you'd have to be blind to deny the libertarian truism that conscription is slavery. Slavery is involuntary servitude. Conscription is involuntary military servitude. Therefore, not only is conscription slavery, it's a particularly heinous form of slavery that often ends in maiming and unaliving. Yet most people disagree, and so did the US Supreme Court back in 1918. As we're unable to conceive upon what theory the exaction by government from the citizen of the performance of his supreme and noble duty of contributing to the defense of the rights and honor of the nation as a result of a war declared by the great representative body of the people can be said to be the imposition of involuntary servitude in violation of the prohibitions of the 13th Amendment. Now, we are constrained to the conclusion that the contention to that effect is refuted by its mere state. It's tempting to dismiss all this as doublethink, but after many years of reflection, I think I finally figured out what most people are thinking, namely, they implicitly regard slavery not as mere involuntary servitude, but as low-status involuntary servitude. Since most of us honor, respect, and even adore all our soldiers, conscripts have high status and therefore can't be slaves. conscriptors. From this point of view, saying conscription is slavery isn't righteously standing up for the rights of conscripts. It's wickedly denying them their high status. We have come to the end of the video. Feel free to share your take or your thoughts on this video. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.